And we are live.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, good morning,
Hello.
good whatever.
Cool.
This is Legacy Gamescast episode 13. How's everybody doing tonight?
Great.
Good.
Took one of those perfectly timed naps that wasn't too long, but was long enough to feel rested.
Nice.
But like you
Oh,
didn't
man.
wake up and feel like, where am I?
Those are
Which
always
happens
nice.
a lot of times.
What year is it?
So, anybody doing or playing anything special this week? Daniel, you got anything going on?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me because as it happens, I did finally finish Ori and the Blind Forest just like this week or last week, and it's good. It's a really good game. I would highly recommend that game. I never played any platforms before, like at all. I like played Mario a little bit, but not even that much. Like platformers, I kind of hated them. But I played Ori in the Blind Forest, and it was just beautiful. All the backgrounds are crafted in a beautiful way. Like apparently no background in that game is a copy. They did like fresh matte paintings of all like the scenery, and the story is just super beautiful, and just the mechanics are just beautiful. The whole game is like, I've said that we did an episode like last week where we said our favorite games were, but like that's now like one of my favorite games. So recommend it. Please play it. It was very enjoyable.
Cool.
Yeah.
Looks like we just lost
I
Rachel.
watched.
We'll try and help her out and circle back to her.
Yeah.
Andreas, what's up?
I watched. I watched a playthrough when a YouTuber played it, and I was really impressed by it. But it's a shame I didn't play it myself. Ended up watching the whole playthrough instead. But it is what it is.
Are you there? Can you hear us now? And she's having some technical difficulties.
Yep.
I wonder what the heck happened.
Her
Yeah, she said her mic
cord
fell out
fell
or
out.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, her cord fell out. It's funny, it's showing blue under her name as if she's making sounds, we just can't hear her. She can't
The
hear
internet
Our,
is a
our
mysterious
buddy
place.
Rachel is having technical difficulties, so we're trying to work that out right now.
I can't wait to. Well, if we're talking about games that came out,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to play Prey, and I was going to buy Prey. But I don't think we've talked about games we've played recently. That's redundant. I don't think we've talked about that, so I will talk about. I didn't buy Prey because we're moving, and while I could afford it, I'm like trying to be a responsible adult and save money for the inevitable. You need to spend $86 on this box that you didn't know you needed. But I played through.
Wait, what box is $86?
We don't know, but I'm ready for it. I have the money
I feel
for
like
it now.
there are
I've been
boxes
saving.
that are like $1, and then there are boxes that are like $1,000. But I'm not sure what an $86 box.
I'll
might
find
be.
one. I'll find one for you.
We'll just do
I played through Outlast 2, which I talked about a little bit, but man, that shit is awesome. If you guys like horror, it is the best crafted horror game I've ever played. Like Amnesia had a bit more of like an RPG element to it, but I tell you, dude, that game is just nonstop terror, and it's so stressful that. I mean, if you like that sort of thing, right? It's fun to play. Like I played it alone. I wish I didn't. 'Cause I had to play it in like stints with the lights on at certain points. Because I don't like jump scares. I hate jump scares because this is a quote of there's a comedian who said a jump scare in a movie is the equivalent of the comedian coming into the audience and tickling someone and being like, "Ha, you laughed. Like technically I did my job." And I always felt the same way, that it's like it's not scary. It's just surprising and suspenseful. But like there's a few jump scares in the game, obviously, but kind of like Amnesia, the jump scares are more you turn around and something's there and you didn't realize it was there, stuff like that,
Yeah.
instead of being like, like jumping at the
It's more
camera.
build up to it.
Yeah. So I looked forward to getting to Prey, but I got Outlast and played through that, and then I attempted to play Heroes of the Storm for 5 minutes and decided I didn't want to.
You did? Oh, you tried it and you didn't. You didn't like it?
I don't like. I played RTS for so long that I don't like MOBAs because I feel I feel like I'm being cheated of units. I'm used to having like armies and shit and commanding like this big force. And it's like you give me one dude and I get bored. I don't know. That's kind of hypocritical because I like Overwatch. I think the first person shooter aspect kind of changes it. That's why I'm not a huge fan of League. I don't know. I try to play all those. I wish I was more into them. Or maybe it's good that I'm not.
No, it's
Yeah, I
bad.
don't know. Yeah, I'm not super into MOBAs personally. I have heard of a new game called The Surge that like they just had a trailer today. And apparently what I heard the one sentence description of it was just Dark Souls but in a sci-fi universe. And I was just like I heard that sentence and I was just like, "Oh, okay, well, okay, let's see what's going on." Well, okay. And so I went and checked it out. It looks pretty cool. I had not heard of it before until now, but it's apparently you're in like a dystopian future and you are fighting a bunch of these dudes. You're in a corporation and they like inject you with like components or metal components like Wolverine kind of style, and you have like like this mech suit on you. And I don't know, like I have never gotten into Dark Souls, but if it's in sci-fi, I'm definitely into that. Have you guys heard of that game?
No,
Yep.
I haven't. Well, of course,
I've watched
not.
some videos of it, because it was Dark Souls related, so jumped on that shit immediately. But I'm not a huge fan of sci-fi, so I probably won't get into it. It looks clunky to me, so I probably won't get it unless it gets super good reviews.
Yeah, of course I'll never pre-order it because
Yeah.
you should
yeah,
never,
that's-
guys, you
Speaking
should
of
never
pre-order,
pre-order anything ever. You should never ever do that.
Yeah. Unless
I'm
there's
sorry,
something you
Daniel.
really, really want, like, the Destiny 2 limited edition with the little Cade 6 figurine, and you figure, oh, they'll have plenty of them, and they sold out in a week. But other than that, never pre-order. He's right. The man is right.
well, I
Comment
just
on that
pre-ordered.
though. I hope that they do not make more of those because that is cool to me that limited edition is gone. So those that have the limited edition have a limited edition. I think that it's like if they added, maybe they add more, but that's cool. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just
I agree with you. If you're going to call it limited, it should be limited. You shouldn't print like 8 million of them. I don't disagree.
the LGC. Our slogan is preheat the oven for pizza, but do not pre-order a video game. That's going. That's
Well,
going
that's
on.
been broken already.
Yeah.
Because I pre-ordered the game.
So anyway, yeah. So I guess that's up to me now. I did actually play Prey. A couple of hours in. I love the atmosphere. I love that it feels like it's definitely a spiritual successor to the Shock series. I'm sure you've probably heard that enough times. System Shock, Bioshock. It's definitely, the atmosphere is there. At times I felt like I was in Bioshock in space. The combat so far is trash, which is unfortunate. You got these little things skittling around on the ground, and you're swinging at them with a pipe, or a wrench, rather. You do get guns or whatever, but at times it just feels horribly infuriating. But overall, the game itself, I like it so far. I like the atmosphere. I like some of the things it's had me do so far, and I think it's going to get better. But yeah, the combat is just, it's iffy. I don't know about that.
How do you think they got away with that? Because they're not affiliated with the Shock series at all. Like, I mean, like 2K and Irrational Games are gone. So can they just do something so similar and get away with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, as long as they don't call it something Shock and actually have something resembling characters from that series, then they have no issue with copyright laws or anything like that. So yeah, they could certainly get away from it. I mean, if there were certain if there were certain gameplay elements that they said, oh no, this is exactly the same, they might go after them. But I mean, remember, Arcane Studios did work on Bioshock 2. They were a support team on that game. So it wouldn't surprise me, if after some of those other studios, after what's it called, folded, they might have ended up at Arcane for all I know. Yeah, because I actually think,
Interesting.
if I remember correctly, Arcane actually has former Looking Glass Studios developers on their team, and they were the original developers of System Shock. So some of these guys, I think, actually developed those games, so that would have a lot to do with how they get away with it, so to speak.
So it's come full circle.
Yes.
I'll play it.
I'm probably gonna play it too.
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
looks
watched a
cool.
playthrough of it yet, so I'll probably play it too.
I enjoy it so far.
dude,
And then,
dude, Andreas, your barometer of playing games is whether or not you've already watched somebody else play them all the way through.
I'm that way though, man.
Yeah,
Like,
I gotta admit, I do it too.
watching playthroughs of games is you know what a game that, but there are games that you can only experience once, and that if you watch a playthrough, it's totally over. Until Dawn is a game that I played, then I watched the playthrough, and like playing it yourself, obviously, it's fun. But I don't know, playthroughs are an interesting new format, I guess I'd call it.
It's like playing a game, but you don't have to actually play the game, and you can just observe it. And I think that's almost as good as watching a movie, if not better. So I mean, I'm definitely in the pro watching playthroughs camp.
yeah, why not? Real quick, the other game I played two Switch games. Played a lot of Mario Kart 8 on the Switch. My 6-year-old son begged me to unlock Gold Mario, which meant I had to get first place in every cup on the fastest setting, and that was kind of insane. And I also picked up a game for $5 off of the eShop called Kamiko, and it was really cool. It kind of
Is that the 360? Or no, that's Kameko, or something similar.
Yeah,
Those
no,
for
I think
360.
I think this game's Switch only. And it's a top-down puzzle game. It's only $5, and at first glance, it kind of looks like Zelda, and it has a little bit of puzzle solving. It's really short. I beat it in about an hour. There's only 4 worlds. You get a boss fight at the end of each world, and basically, like I said, the gameplay is very simple. That you can pick from 3 different characters with different abilities. I picked one that seemed like she had a boomerang, I think she was throwing across the room, and it was really neat. Just puzzle solving, fighting bosses with different gameplay mechanics. Nothing extravagant. I thought it was well worth $5, and I'm glad I picked it up. So so that's what I've been doing this week. All right, I guess hopefully Rachel is able to make it back on. We're gonna pop forward. Nick, what are we talking about this week? What's on the agenda?
She's with us in spirit. I have faith she'll be back. We're gonna talk about the ever-growing and developing nature of the internet, and we're gonna specifically talk about net neutrality, as that's kind of a hot issue right now. But more broadly, how has the rapid evolution of the internet affected online games, and how do we see it affecting online gaming in the future? I think that net neutrality really stands out because it's a hot button issue, both politically, both in the gaming world and then politically outside of that. And I think that I, for one, as much as I like to bullshit about knowing what I'm talking about, didn't really fully understand net neutrality. So I was hoping, and as I was looking at more and more of that, I think it was interesting to look at how that might affect the gaming verse, if it will. So you guys want to chat about that a little
bit? Sure. If you guys don't mind, I'll just jump in and
go ahead.
A brief on it. Because I've been following net neutrality for a while. If you don't know, the brief history is that it came out as an issue, I think in 2012 or 2014, I can't remember. But a while back during the Obama administration, it came out for a little bit. Tom Wheeler, the chairman of the FCC, was going to, people were pressuring him to make internet providers act like phone lines do, where they have to provide the same service to everybody, no matter what they are. So Comcast is, one internet provider, and then Time Warner is another, and they were all supposed to do the same thing, meaning that one can't charge a bunch more for the service, for the same speed as another one. Or it can't differentiate between I'm going to show you the videos and the content from the provider that I like Netflix that we've made a deal with. I can't make it cheaper for you to watch Netflix than, say, Hulu. that we have not made a deal with. So like, you know, Comcast shakes hands with Netflix and says, okay, now Netflix can send you stuff for $20 less per month than Hulu can. See, that kind of stuff is what people did not want to have happen. Because obviously, once that kind of stuff starts happening and companies can buy their way into being able to make things cheaper or more expensive for you, depending on what you're looking at on the internet, then that's a huge problem. Because, you know, in terms of basic economics, people, if something's more expensive to do or cheaper to do, people are going to gravitate to it or away from it, and then it's going to receive more money or less money, and it's going to be basically manipulating what actually survives on the internet as a business. So net neutrality is a broad term meaning that none of that stuff can happen. All the internet service people are prevented from making special deals with certain providers on the internet to be able to make it, you know, easier for them to give you content, or harder, or exclude some people, or preventing you from seeing something on the internet, or maybe just making it really slow. Like if you wanted to play Halo, then Microsoft could not make a deal to make it so that your Halo was faster than your, you know, CSGO, for instance, online. Like the ping could artificially not be made like shorter or longer. So the purpose of all of that ended up being to create what was called a Title II carrier, which is what phone communication networks are right now. And that went through in 2015. That actually passed, and the FCC made it so that companies could not do all that. It became law. It was regulation. Now, all of that has changed because somebody new went into the president's office and appointed another FCC chairman, and that person is now trying to undo that regulation.
Very outspoken about it too.
Yeah, and a very important detail, he's a former lawyer for Verizon. So you can question his agenda.
Although there's a point, because the FCC guy before him was a former executive at Comcast.
That was why it was actually surprising when he allowed the rule, or when he took part in, wrote the rule, whatever he did, to actually protect net neutrality. And I think a lot of that had to do with the public pressure, where they realized, okay, yeah, you know what, people are screaming at us. Okay, enough people had their voice heard and made a difference, because yeah, that was my exact reaction when I heard, oh, he's a former Comcast guy, we're screwed.
Yeah, me too.
And so it was surprising when the FCC made that rule.
The really cool analogy I heard is, because the way that I understand that they want to implement this is they want to be able to. Here's what they would say. This is their sales pitch. The Time Warner, that they want to be able to provide people with a faster internet at a premium cost, right? That they want to be able to have two different kinds of internet, or those are these are things we can do now. When in reality, it would, is that really, you're really speeding up the internet, or are you making it slower for everybody else? Based on how you pick and choose. And the analogy is, your water bill or your electricity bill comes for what you spent or used. And then imagine if the electricity company is like, well, your electricity works way more efficiently if you have a Samsung television. Or it works better with that, or your water faucets work better if you have a certain kind. It's just being able to control that it's obviously a huge conflict of interest. And it all sounds bad, and I think it's because it is. Like, that's I was mulling this over, trying to come up with counter arguments for the sake of having a good discussion, and I was having a hard time coming up with but they're gonna boost. They're going to boost the internet. It's going to be faster internet. But the only thing I can think of is if something like this goes through, because the market will evolve. Entities like Netflix and Google, and those are the two big ones that come to mind. If affected by this, have the resources to provide, just imagine this goes through. Just bear with me. It goes through. We're all, oh my God, this sucks. But now you have entities like Microsoft, Netflix, and Google, who are now in interest, with Google Fiber already being a thing, to quickly implement their own internet service providers, and they could, those massive entities. Imagine if they offered an undercut for everybody, like, and they did something against that. I don't know. That's the only good I can see coming to this. Does that, like, that's like the only, like, the fact that the market would adapt, I think, eventually. It's just how long would it be shitty?
That's part of the problem too, and
Yeah.
I stumbled across this, and that's not as easy as you think. I mean, there's spectrum that's controlled by these two companies. There's spectrum that's blocked by, regulations put in place. There's a lot of problems there where it's not as easy for them to take over and just jump in. And I think that's part of the problem, is that, Google is on the side of net neutrality, and their argument is, hey, we had protections in place that allowed us to come from being a startup to become a power in this sector, and everyone should have those same that level playing field, the same things that we had access to in order to get to where we're at. Somebody made an argument in Reddit thread I was reading, like, well, Google has, it's some sort of caching that allows them to, I assume it allows you to reach Google quicker than, a lot of other, search engines, and that's how. But the reason they do that is because they were able to grow large enough to where they had enough money where they could build things and they could do that. And their argument is, this type of thing, allowing the ISPs to do whatever the hell they want will prevent other potential startups from having that same access, from giving us competition. Because that's one thing that we don't have as citizens, as gamers, as consumers. And yeah, okay, nobody's owed, broadband internet. I get it. In 2017, I think everybody should have it, but I get it. Nobody's owed that. You lived life without it. You could live life without it again. I get it. But what I'm getting at is if you let them, they basically want to have control over the point where I personally think, and I know it's sketchy to try and base, legislation or policy or whatever on something that could happen. But in the case of these big businesses, I generally fall to the side of, hey, if I don't protect against them doing something shady, they're going to do something shady. It's what they do 9 times out of 10. And Apple and Comcast before have tampered with this stuff. Apple has blocked things, from AT&T has blocked things, from people from doing things on their network, and they want to have the control to do that across the board. And it's just, when we only have, a couple of options here because they're major conglomerates, it's really frustrating, and it makes it difficult for anybody to get in there and compete and give us options. Because if they say, hey, your regular tier internet is $50 a month, and it's, slower than it is now, but if you pay $100 a month, you'll actually get faster speeds, and you can go all the way up to 150 and this and that and everything. Well, next thing you know, you're struggling to find a match because, your ping times are garbage because you don't want to pay $100 a month for internet. Or like Andreas, if we're over here and we have things, constricted or whatever, forget about playing with us. The latency would be so bad, we'll never be able to play with friends overseas. It could be.
Unless
You delete already like that.
Unless
you
now,
pay
granted,
for the premium internet.
yes. Now the argument is, hey, the technology is good enough now. They're not going to suddenly chop everybody's internet down to DSL speeds. But
why
hey,
the hell wouldn't you? Prove it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unless we're protecting against that, there's nothing that says they can't. Like I said, I know hypotheticals. I get it, but I think these companies have proven time and time again that they're ruthless, and they don't want to take chances. That's their argument. They don't want to take risks. We, as taxpayers or whatever, we put in all the risk on things like, developing the internet when it gets started, and then it gets transferred over into the public sector, the private sector, and then, they refuse to take risks. Oh, well, we need net neutrality to go away because we can't invest with net neutrality. We can't invest in making things better, and it's just like, all that is, we don't want to take a risk. We don't want to take on that monetary risk. We want to be able to charge a premium so that we have the money to go build, more infrastructure and this and that. And it's like, I get it. Things cost money, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Frank, I totally agree with you. Like, 99%. I am also have thought a little bit about the devil's advocate side of this conversation because, yeah, it's really easy to say that this sucks all around. But the one thing I'm not sure of is exactly how much it takes to, put through an infrastructural change of that magnitude. Like, our internet is definitely subpar in terms of other places in the world. People have talked about this. I can't remember where, but I know I've read that, we have a pretty slow internet compared to a lot of places. We don't have optical fiber. Sweden apparently is blazing fast. They got a giant superhighway. Andreas is on it. He's looking at HT videos 5 at a time. But here in America, we do not have fiber optic yet in most places. And it's, we have a lot of opportunity for growth, basically, in our network. It works fine, obviously, but we don't know how fast it can really go. Our general public just uses it, but it can go a lot faster, and we can do a lot more with it. So that's one thing, but it's a huge, huge network. It's, it's literally down every street, and across every pole, and laid out to every house, everywhere, and each one of these lines does have a certain capacity, and you do need to upgrade that stuff, especially in a lot of places that are not like cities. There's going to be a lot of maintenance that has not been done in a long time. There's just tons of little corners of the world, of America, that you have to go to in order to actually roll out a sweeping change to the internet service. So all I'm saying is that I don't know how much money, how much work that actually turns out to be. Like, you could compare numbers on, say, like the telephone service, because that's been around longer, and it's the same kind of thing. We're laying lines out all over from house to house. But even that, I don't know if it's the same thing exactly. And because the technology for the internet is still evolving, and the telephone stuff is more just like, okay, here's a line, we'll put the line here, and now it's there. But the internet stuff, the technology changes. And it may change pretty quickly, especially as we head into the future. So when these companies, like a common excuse, for those who don't know, the common excuse, as Frank illuminated for these companies, is that without being able to charge high prices, they do not have the money or the resources to be able to roll out newer and better internet experiences. And that is a bullet point on this kind of defense of reducing these regulations, is that they need to charge more money. They need to provide tiered access. They need to lock out our capacity so that they can get more funds. They can use their resources more efficiently. Maybe they can cut off bits of service here and there so they can make changes. I don't know. It's a complicated landscape. But, they might be right. I don't know. I really personally think they might be talking out their ass. Like, I think there's a 95% chance. But I feel like
it smells like bullshit to me too.
Yeah, it smells like bullshit too. But as an intellectually honest person,
both, yeah.
But
yeah, who knows?
Like, here's the thing though, is that in an interview, and I wish I could cite this, so take this with a grain of salt because I'm recalling this from memory. But someone said, well, interviewing one of these execs or PR people pushing for, we need to get rid of net neutrality, said everything you said, and then somebody said, well, could we augment the law to where you could charge a premium, but if you tamper with, or like they pretty much said you can charge a premium, but it would still be, extremely illegal and finable to be, once that premium is paid, or like some kind of regulation put in place where you could not tamper with who is affected by the premium, and you can't tamper with, the quality of the internet access. What you pay for is what you get. And the response was kind of no, that wouldn't work. Like, this kind of, wouldn't it though? If what you're saying is true, you need to be able to charge a premium. Let's augment net neutrality that you can charge a premium now, but you can't make the internet more shitty. You have to only make it better, and we can fucking measure that. But his response was like, no, that's that won't. No.
Yeah, they just want to be able to do whatever they want. Yeah,
and it's a huge conflict of interest. If I told you, hey, the water company, the company that sells you water, which is not privatized, that's another thing to look at too. The company that deals with your water can now give you a higher grade water for this amount of money. You kind of be like, I don't think I want that. Like, because I don't want them making my water lower. Or I don't want, or they can, guess what? They're going to come up with better water for everybody, but the water you use for your shower is going to cost twice as much as the water you use for your sink. And like having that, like them being able to dictate that at all seems like a huge conflict of interest. And Frank, to your point earlier, you said, I know it sounds like hypotheticals. Laws are made on history and hypotheticals. Like that's how laws are created. So we look at history. Do businesses abuse shit like this? Yes. Do people in power abuse the ability to have more power? Yes. Could this happen? Yes. So there's a law against it, and this guy that's in there is now, it's archaic regulation that needs to go away. And 2015, we weren't in some kind of crisis that was put there for a reason. I'm a little bit tinfoil hat with the whole thing. The more I read about it, kind of like the conspiracy theory that the reason that cigarettes are banned you can't have commercials for cigarettes on television was like, the tinfoil hat theory where that was propagated by the companies so that they didn't have to pay for the advertising because they knew their products were addictive and people would eventually get them anyway, so they don't have to compete with other brands. So like you don't have to now compete with Camel if you're Marlboro because that's the conspiracy. And I also like kind of wonder, like, did these companies get together and be like, yo, let's push for getting rid of this and let's all look at doing it this way. But I don't know. I think that the question that sticks out in my mind is, how does this pertain to gaming? How would it affect us, And I think that the issues there that it could affect us huge because with Dota 2 and League of Legends and Counter-Strike being at the front runners, we're quickly seeing the esports become a multi-billion-dollar thing as a whole, not any one entity. But imagine if Riot is now paying Comcast more money so that if you have Comcast, your League of Legends runs faster and your Dota runs slower. I think that's, and ping is so important. Ping is like everything. I mean,
and let's take it a little bit deeper than just ping. Let's talk about your wallet. When's the last time game prices went up? When they went up to $60, right? They were $50 for years, and then I think they went up to 60. Imagine Comcast, Verizon, whoever, all of them, all of the above, starts charging Microsoft and Sony a premium for delivering digital content. All of a sudden, your games are $70, $80, because Microsoft's not going to eat that fee. Sony's not going to eat it. They're going to pass it down to you. So now your games are costing more because of the extra cost that they're being charged by the ISPs to send the digital content to you. It's not just ping times. They can hit you with that too. And I mean, and believe me, that's how businesses work. Like I said, they're not going to go in a hole for you. None of them will. They go out of business. They have to. I'm not saying, that issues with capitalism as it is aside, that's for a different podcast. I get that as a business, you exist to make money. I get that. Otherwise, you wouldn't stay in business. That's how it works. But when there's something, like this that could happen potentially, where they could easily start charging them for more, and they're going to pass it down to you, you got to recognize that and say, okay, yeah, this is a bad thing. This could be a bad thing for me as a gamer. It could hit my wallet directly, and that's not something I want. I don't want to be paying $70, $80 for games. That's ridiculous. It's bad enough they're bringing, these special packs that it's up over $100 now if you buy the season pass with the damn game to get all the content over the first year of the game. That's bad enough with microtransactions. Now the base game is going to go up in cost because Comcast is charging Microsoft a premium to send me the digital game. I don't want that.
And the thing is, they're doing this already in some scenarios. Like I remember like last year, the year before, where somebody was showing that when using, like, what stream was it? Like Netflix was a lot slower than Hulu, or what was it?
Yeah.
You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, somebody was looking at their streaming services options, and the one that was, in cahoots or was owned partially by their internet service provider went a hell of a lot quicker. So
yeah, and that's that conflict of interest you're talking about. Hulu, is that NBC, or is that, I forget who? Maybe that's a conglomerate. Oh, it's NBC has 30% of it. So hello, Comcast owns NBC. So if Comcast wants to, without net neutrality in place, oh no, Netflix, no, we're doing our own streaming series over here on Hulu. You're going to be in a lower tier than Hulu, so people are going to see issues with streaming Netflix and this and that, and they're going to want to jump over to Hulu. It's that conflict of interest you're talking about. They're giving their own product, better access, better speeds.
I mean, we already see that being something like the way. Imagine, like when you buy. Imagine this, like for example, that if you could even this could eventually. I'm talking if this law went away and this went down this path. Could you guys foresee something drastic happening, like 15 years from now? You can buy the console that goes this fast or the console that goes this fast and in direction to the internet, or you can buy this Wi-Fi card or this Wi-Fi card that works better with works premium compatible, right? Because people will pay for what is better if they have the money.
Like one card is better for movies, one card is better for gaming, stuff like that.
Or you can get the whole package, which is premium compatible for only $29.99 more, or fuck $200 more, who knows? That allows you to, you can have easier, better internet with this one. And they might. I mean, I honestly believe that they can turn that internet up. Not like with a switch, literally, but I mean, if these companies had an incentive to, they would. I don't know because with any argument, I think it's really important for me personally to, how do I say this? If you hear a counter argument, even if it's for the side that you agree with, you should still be just as critical of it as if it was for your side, right? Because I think a lot of arguments, especially in the day and age of the internet, are all ends justify the means, and that's why we get this is a whole nother conversation. But that's how we get all these shit posts on Facebook that are bashing somebody or something. Even if I agree with it, I'm like, I don't know if that's accurate though, because it's really important for us to be credible. And like the whole idea that this is gonna cause them to turn off, like make everybody's internet down here so that they can just charge for normal internet. I don't know if they could get away with that without because that's a very common thing I was saying, that if net neutrality goes away, they will that's the thing people like to throw around, drop your current internet to a much lower standard and then charge for regular internet, which technically they could do. I just think that the potential for lawsuit for changing quality of service for amount paid would be pretty significant. I think it'd be more likely they would just raise your prices. They wouldn't drop your internet.
Yeah, it'd be more about like not progressing forward and making the internet faster than it is now. But like the issue is that we are constantly expanding. There's like a technological principle that's like, if you make a more powerful technology, people will automatically use it until they're using all of it. So, like we had, super slow computers in the past, and we had really crappy games. And now that there are new computers, we specifically get new computers so that we can have more capacity to play these more complicated games with better graphics and better audio. And it's the same thing for like internet. We do a lot more things on the internet than we used to. So, as the future goes forward, it just makes sense to me that we're going to be wanting to do more and put more things on and have things go faster in between each other and being able to send bigger files to each other and receive bigger ones back. We want to see each other in HD video, not just regular definition. We want to be able to, in like 50 years, we want to be able to smell each other over the internet.
No,
and that's probably going to take a lot of space. Mm-mm. No, it could be. This is just the future. I need you to come with me on this imagination journey. Imagine that you're smelling the perfume of your lover across the ocean. and it's
Okay,
a
that
beautiful
doesn't sound too bad.
experience.
Or the sweat of
Yo, if
people
we
in
have that tech, why the
arena
fuck
matches.
why can't she just teleport back over here, dude?
Yeah, right.
Dude,
Why
Yeah, dude.
this imagination only goes so far. So anyway,
got it.
so what we will need is we will need our internet to grow to be able to accommodate this, and my big fear is that it's just not going to, and that the big issue that I feel like separates the internet from anything else in the past is that you can't really measure it, look at it, and say, I need more of that. Sure, if you are in a, if you're like in a rural town where you have very little and you have friends that are like, oh, I'm streaming Netflix at HD, you can be like, oh, I want that internet. But what if you have the fastest internet in the country already and it's pretty fast? Then maybe, yeah, sure, you can look at other places in the world, but the every man isn't going to be like, oh, how fast and what are they doing over in this other part of the world? Will they have a faster network? Excuse me. They're going to be like, this is the internet. This is how fast it goes. I know it takes this long to get this, and I could say that that's slow, I could say that that's fast, but I don't really know at all. I have no fucking idea because it's the internet, and I have not grown up with the internet. I don't know what it's supposed to do, It's like saying, like in order to traverse 3 Fleebles, you need 17 Dweebles. And, there's nothing that makes any sense inherently about that. It's just people telling you what it's supposed to do and what you should expect. So with the internet not moving forward, the issue is that people are just going to continue using it in the way that they're using it now, where that works to a certain extent. But
Right.
who's to say how much further it can go? Who's to say how much further it should and how fast it should?
Right.
And the only indicator, as far as I know, and you guys can talk about this, but it seems to me that it's only going to start showing up to people that their internet is too slow when we start overall as a country feeling the ramifications of that. Like, like when the economy starts slowing down, people can't do things. When people can't do things, like for instance in America, as fast as other people can, for enough time that people can actually tell that that's happening. That people are making transactions faster, or being able to send each other 3D prints of things or something, and then we can't. And overall, the place I can see that landing is in the economy, but also in like something like gaming, because like you guys said, ping is a major thing, and ping is directly dependent on how much stuff you can send in a given amount of time. That's literally what it means. And if people have faster ping in a game, then that makes all the difference in the world. In competitive situations, if you are shooting a gun at somebody in another country or across the coasts, then you have a tenth of a second before you shooting your gun becomes you shooting your gun on the other side of the game. Your opponent doesn't see you shooting the gun until 1/10 of a second after you do, and that's your 100 millisecond ping. Now, you're in a perfectly fair world. Your opponent also is saying that you are shooting, or excuse me, your opponent also shoots their gun, and then you see it 1/10 of a second afterwards. The same amount of time. There's the same amount of delay, same amount of disadvantage, total fairness in the game. Now, the way most games are constructed right now, it would never really be the possibility that one side would be able to see things faster than the other, because it's kind of like a two-way street. Like things have to happen all at the same time. So it's not like I'd be like, this guy can see a bullet before you can see their bullet. Like that kind of a balance would never happen in a specific game. But say in Korea, people have way faster internet, which I'm pretty sure they already do. They have a ping. Yeah, they're number one. But so they have a ping that's a lot lower than yours. So they can react to things a lot faster. So pro team in Korea is practicing, and they're reacting to things way quicker, because they're happening a lot faster. They have, a small amount, like 1/10 of a second to like a 20th or a 50th. But still, when you then take this team from Korea and they face these people from America, America has been practicing with a certain amount of time, and they've been practicing with another. And then when they come together, that creates issues, obviously. Who's going to win? I don't know, but The point is that there's going to be differences, and who knows
Literally painful.
how.
Yeah, and I don't think
So,
we can
yeah,
stress
literally
enough.
unplayable.
I don't think we can stress enough. Like, that sounds like mumbo jumbo, like it doesn't matter, but it really does. I remember hearing an example recently of I think it was a Smash Brothers Melee tournament where a guy quit heading into the finals because his controller broke. And the reason was that it was a certain controller. I don't know if it was a third-party controller or whatever it was. And this controller, he could get it to reliably glitch or something. Not break the game, but just like the controller behaved in a certain way, and it was just like a half second, a very small window of him doing something a certain way. And because he couldn't do that, he couldn't play the game. Because he couldn't predict, he knew he'd lose. There was no chance. And so they're at this such a high level that the slightest little change in your ping, your controller responsiveness, or whatever it is, it actually matters to these guys. So I can understand. Like, maybe to your average gamer, maybe it won't. But I think your example of, seeing the bullet first, getting shot, oh, no, I shot him first. No, you didn't, because he saw you a split second before you did. Because his ping was better. And there's...
Well, and more importantly, sorry, but
No.
I feel like while that stuff may not be a big deal to the average gamer, what it tells me is just overall in gaming, it really matters how fast your internet is. And as the future heads forward and they start putting more things into games, and games are becoming more and more important to people as time goes on, I am kind of scared about what kind of things are going to become necessary in games and be able to make them interesting and fun, and are going to be impacted by differences just caused strictly because companies are arbitrarily placing limits on how fast you can access somebody else.
Right.
Because, the possibilities are literally beyond imagination.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Before we move on there, I know our friend Rachel didn't get a chance to jump in earlier on because she had some technical difficulties. I want to make sure, Rachel, do you think we've missed anything? Any key points? Something, from your viewpoint, why this could be an issue for gamers in general?
Well, I think for the most part, you guys hit the nail on the head pretty well. I think you covered all my worries with the net neutrality affecting gaming, mainly that game prices will rise. I think, Frank, you did a really good job about explaining that. And I know we're trying to pertain this to gaming, but I think net neutrality is important to everybody, not just gamers. But I feel like at this point, it's kind of a war between the public saying the internet is like a public utility and everybody kind of should have the right to enjoy it and have it, versus the ISPs, which are kind of pushing towards internet being like a luxury thing. And, if you can pay more for faster internet, then if you have the money to do so, then why not do it, And so I can see both sides, because I was initially under the impression that, internet's a public utility, it's, it should be treated like water, electricity, gas, all that kind of stuff. But the Daniel's conversation earlier when he was kind of explaining how, the U.S. doesn't get the greatest internet, and there's other places around the world that gets better internet, worse internet than us. It's still very variable for it to be like a public utility kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Everything's very hypothetical at this point, but I'm very wary about ISPs. They are very slimy when it comes to the business world. I don't necessarily trust them, and I feel like they've already had so many past confrontations between the public and themselves, and I don't know. I feel like this whole net neutrality thing is just kind of a money grab for them. That's just my opinion about the whole thing.
Wait, you don't trust Comcast?
I mean, they only got the lowest approval rating from everybody. So I guess that's not a big deal.
Yeah, and I think
they tried to steal an entire internet access region, and then they lied about it or something. But
they're brutal.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, I mean, because the ISPs all kind of agree to stay out of each other's way. That way, they're not competing with each other, and they're all just trying to maximize profits. That's just I don't trust them at all.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I just kind of wanted to add too. I feel like this whole the big picture of net neutrality. I think it's mostly about like censorship. I think that's a big thing. I don't know if we talked about that earlier, but I feel like if the law were to pass where ISPs could basically have free reign over the internet, I just feel like at that point that's just too much power for one like sect to have. Especially something with the internet where it's like everybody uses it. It's like so integral to our day-to-day society nowadays that to have someone head of it and basically dictate like, all right, you're going to pay this much for it, and if you want this extra content, you're going to have to pay extra money for it. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't agree with it at all. And I don't think that entity should have that much power, essentially.
No, it shouldn't. And to your point, you said earlier like that. But like water companies, electricity companies are not like they're not anywhere near privatized like the internet is.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like a level.
It's becoming more of a resource. But like, I know I'm curious to hear what Andreas feels like because he's not in the United States. Like, so it's completely like it's our issue, if you will. But I also wanted to ask you guys. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but a lot of this like proposed shit sounds totally in violation of the United States antitrust law. If you guys are familiar with that, like to stop like this, the antitrust law was put in to get rid of like basically. I mean, look it up. The United States antitrust law is to stop monopolies from happening. And like there's like price discriminations on there, like price fixing, like there's a whole list of stuff. So that's like the only like ray of sunshine I see in this is that I feel like companies affected by this can really like if it were the worst were to happen, I feel like I mean I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, but I feel like they would have a case. I mean. You guys can go to Wikipedia. It has everything in the United States that's illegal to do as a business for practice, and they're all laws that are put in place to try to stop one company from getting too much power. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked too well if you look at the way the United States is working. But there are very specific things that can and cannot be done. And so, ironically, instead of helping the little man like this was intended to do, it would help other mega companies such as Blizzard, Activision, if they were affected, to be like, no, fuck you, you can't do that to us. So I don't know. I would encourage everybody to look at that too. And if you feel that that's in violation of that, that should be part of your argument.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And before we bounce to Andreas, I don't want to leave him out of this. Yeah. I just wanted to go back to a point that Rachel made, and I think you covered it a little bit too, Nick. Part of the problem is that I would think that everyone in this country at this point, at least I hope so, agrees that you should be questioning the government. You should be questioning your elected officials. Assume you can't trust them, and hope that you find out you can. But I think part of the problem is, and we've built this culture over decades, where not enough people feel the same way about corporations. I've had people flat out tell me, yeah, I want the government out of everything. I don't trust the government. But you trust that big corporation over there that you don't have a controlling interest in, that you can't vote to decide who's on their board? You trust them? I mean, at least with the government, and yeah, there's a lot of corruption, but at least there, unless you're disenfranchised by, voter restrictions or this or that, at least there you at least have the idea that you can go to the polls and decide, hey, this corrupt jackass needs to get out. If you strip away regulations and this and that, and I'm getting off my soapbox, I promise, you let those companies over there do whatever the hell they want. And we're supposed to trust them? Like, don't trust anybody. Assume, I'm not saying wear a tinfoil hat everywhere, but assume that they don't have your best interests in mind. Because a lot of times they don't. They have their bottom line in mind. They have to exist as a company. And that's part of the problem.
Because why would they? Why would they have your interests in mind?
Not exactly, and not enough people question them. They'll question the hell out of the government. I think most people agree, but too many people trust these companies to do the right thing. And that's not right. So, and I think that's part of the problem, is that the internet in general moved over into the private sector a long time ago, and that's why you have the difference. That's why it's just popping up now. All of a sudden, oh, well, this is really a utility. It should be regulated like a utility. And the private company's like, no, I don't think so. And that's part of the problem, Nick. But yeah, Andreas, he brought you up. Like, obviously things are different over there. I did some reading. I saw that I believe you guys have some form of net neutrality over there. But yeah. I think, is your internet, is it more in the public sector, or are there private companies running it?
it's more private companies providing it. I'm not really into laws that much. I haven't read about it too much, but I know here in Sweden, at least, most companies that deliver internet also delivers TV most of the times, and there's just two companies that does it usually. So I don't know if that's kind of like a mini version of net neutrality, in that they monopolize on bringing you TV. So other companies that just brings you internet doesn't have a chance against them at all, because it's the same price, but you don't get TV with it.
Gotcha.
As for me, we got at least where I live, we got an German ISP that I don't know that much about, so I hate them.
If you don't have to know a lot about it, probably means that it's not in a bad spot. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, I think they're the number 4 fastest in the world, so that's counts for something, I guess.
Not where I live, I can tell you that.
Not where you're at. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I think you mentioned that. I didn't know if it was your internet or your PC where you said you had trouble streaming sometimes.
No, it's my internet.
Okay.
Because usually when you live further down the mountain, you can get up to 100 up, 100 down megabyte, but I only have like 10 up, 100 down. So
Gotcha.
I feel like that's like faster than what I have though. Still.
Yeah. I mean, I think
but
I only get
it's Wi-Fi.
75. Oh.
It's Wi-Fi and it goes through a concrete wall, so I get like 8 up, 10 down.
Right. Yeah. Yep, that happens to me. Like, things are a lot better for me right now because I'm up here. My Xbox and my PS4 are connected via, Cat 5 cable, whereas before they were wireless. And I still did alright, but because it's not concrete walls. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's just not the same.
One thing I gotta say, if companies start doing this, if net neutrality get dissolved or something, is peer-to-peer is gonna be even more of a shithole than it already is.
Yep.
Dude,
Yeah, I think we can all
peer-to-peer
agree
needs
with
to go
that.
away. It needs to not be a thing anymore.
Yeah, peer-to-peer is bad.
D2
If you're
is going to be
for a
peer-to-peer.
for a triple what?
Destiny 2 is going to be peer-to-peer. You heard it here first.
Wait, you know? Oh, you don't know. That. I was like, are you, for a AAA? Okay, this is a
Like
whole
that
other
makes
rant.
no sense.
For a
I'm not buying
AAA
that for a
title,
second.
for a AAA title, it is unacceptable at this stage to not have dedicated servers. Like,
Go talk to
Look at-
Ubisoft about that shit.
I know, but look at what happened with what's that? For Honor. It was like super huge, and then like everybody was like, and just went on to the next thing because like the hype was high because the game content's really awesome, but the meme literally unplayable if you are suffering from visual input here on the game, but due to latency, something else completely is happening. You can't do anything with that, and I don't know. The internet's such an interesting thing in that it's really like the next. This is gonna sound really a little like psychedelic, dude, but the concept that there's, I forgot what it's called, but there's like a society. It's the kind of thing that ants are, that like they all fall in line. They do exactly like ants are one, like colony creatures. They fall into this category. Some people argue that humans also are a mammal format of this kind of colony structure, alongside naked mole rats, believe it or not. But this colony falling in line structure, and everybody has a specific role where they do it. And when humans have stopped evolving through, like, because we have to run faster because that thing's going to fucking eat us, right? Like, that doesn't happen anymore. So we've been evolving through tools and technology for, thousands of years now. And the internet, what is the most efficient form of society, or like in any entity, is really like a hive mind, a shared idea, a shared consciousness. So the internet is our solution to that. It is I am right now conversing my thoughts in my head with a dude sitting in Sweden halfway across the world. like that's happening. So the internet is so integral to like the next stages of human like evolution as a whole, because in the past like we had pen pals and stuff, right? Like that was revolutionary. Like the post was at this level, but the internet is the same thing. It's this hugely, like, it affects everything you do, more and more, you know. I mean, I'd say maybe 10 years ago, most cars were not affected by the internet, like directly. I'm sure they researched and they did stuff, but now it is. And as this really important tool to like human development as a whole. I mean, it's such a short scope. I wouldn't necessarily call it evolution, but it's certainly techno evolution in that, like I said, like we can like this collective. And that's why we also get it's like this weird analogy, like it was also all the trolls and people that you think are idiots are now bouncing around in your head every time you read the internet. Like it's part of that like that hell too. But I think that the internet needs to be taken seriously. It is a resource. It is something that is not, you know, it is a valuable resource to our society. And if we are to go forward and like achieve, even almost in rant, even if you look at like the potential for something like world peace or world understanding, like the collaboration takes place on the fucking internet. Like we don't all meet in person, but you know, you and I, like we have 5 people from 5 different places here that have connected through the internet and are now producing some kind of content. And I think it's crazy, man. Like that it's potentially liable that somebody can be like, I am now in control of all of the gold. like that's like I don't want to give anybody too much power with that. And I think that's the scary thing with internet and net neutrality.
And look how important it's becoming for games. I mean, look how many games that you've played over the last 6 months were online only.
Right.
I mean, you're in love with Overwatch. Exactly, all of them. Overwatch, you know, Destiny. Some of your favorite games in the last couple of years, online only. You know, there's going to be more of those games. And if they're impacted in a negative way by this regulation going away, you know, there's going to be fewer games to play because they're going to be more costly to develop potentially if there's restrictions on, you're on Microsoft server, because then Microsoft's going to pass the cost to the licensing fee. They're going to pass the cost to, you know, to us, and these games could potentially suffer. And that's critical because these things are becoming more and more important. The internet is more and more important to games. So unless somebody else has anything that's, you know, on the tip of their tongue, burning their mouth that they actually absolutely feel they have to get out, I think we've just about covered it. And the silence tells me we're good, so I'm just going to go ahead and go around. I want to give Rachel a chance real quick since you weren't able to earlier. Is there anything interesting or fun or different that you might have played this week? Anything going on? Anything you wanted to mention before we end the show?
Not so much. I did I picked up The Witcher 3. I've been hearing really good, you know, reviews about it, and I know it's been out for about a year now, so I'm a little bit behind. But yeah, it's great so far. I love it. And then I recently went back and replayed BioShock Infinite because that's one of my favorite series of all time.
Nice.
So yeah, it was good. It was really enjoyable. So yep, that's what I've been up to this week.
Yeah, I kept my 360 so I wouldn't have to buy the BioShock connection, just so I could go back and replay it at some point. So I'm going to. And The Witcher, it's on my list of, like, I have TV shows and albums and games that it's one of those things where it's like, I've heard far too much about this thing for me to never play it. Like, I have to play it. I've heard far too many good things. So yeah, it's on my list. I'm glad to hear that's pretty good, like everybody says it is.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
All right.
Frank's ever-growing list. We should keep like an actual list of shit that you say that you're going to need to play.
Yeah.
The thing is, good. Hats off to you, man. You do it though.
Yeah,
I don't.
I started using
I'm gonna play that. I never do.
Yeah, I started using howlongtobeat.com, I think. Maybe it's .org, where I'm tracking the games I complete and what I'm playing at any given time. And I might as well do my update. Just like everywhere else, Twitch, Twitter, I'm giving a fly 1021 over there if you guys want to look me up. The word given has no vowels in it. I'm streaming Prey right now. Every now and then I might pop on and do, you know, something, a quick hit like Graceful Explosion Machine, or maybe even some Mario Kart. Something I can just pop in, pop out of. So just, you know, follow the Legacy Gamescast Twitch and you'll get notifications when I'm online. Daniel, what you got going on?
Yo, what up? This is Daniel.
It's your boy.
I got, so I'm still trying to be the Talos principal, and that is gonna take me a long time. But I've been working.
I know I said this last
working
week,
on
but it is so much fun
one
watching you
puzzle.
play that game. I know that you're
Working on-
torturing yourself, but I love watching it.
Oh, it's still fun. It's still fun. I love solving puzzles. Like, it's it's a really rewarding experience when it actually like pans out. And every time, every Sunday that I take where I get absolutely nowhere in that game, is just it's just building the anticipation. God damn it, Nick. Just building the anticipation until I finally get a victory, and I know it's gonna be amazing. So, in the meantime, if you want to watch me play, I have a solid lead on solving this one puzzle. So, come Sunday, I'm going to be on LegacyGamesCast. I said erroneously last time that I'd be on twitch.tv/Shazam32, but I'm actually streaming from the LGC channel, and I'll be doing the hour of trying to solve the Talos Principle again on Sunday, and I'll be doing it every Sunday at 9 o'clock.
I'm not
Sweet.
laughing at all because you're somehow bad at the game. I'm cracking up because I love watching you play that game because you're just absolutely dry, pseudo pessimistic sense of humor the entire time. Like you're so sarcastic with the puzzle. You're like,
Yeah.
and that didn't work, so I don't know what to do now. I guess I'll go back to the beginning. Like
It's
your
a perfect
commentary is
mix.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's a perfect mix with what's happening on screen. You're absolutely right. So since Nick is having trouble breathing, let's go to Andreas next. What's going on with you this week? Anything special?
I'll probably try and pick up streaming Metro again because I was busy this week, so I didn't get to do it again. And I had a realization that the story doesn't make any sense if you haven't read the books or seen anything from that game before. So when I stream it next time, I'll probably try and do some background explanation while I play it through level. And
Cool.
we're going up on the surface next.
That sounds like a great idea. Cool. All right. All right, Nick, what's going on with you? And then take us home.
Sweet. I have been really busy with work and real life stuff. I'll be moving, so probably won't see too much of me. I'm currently working on getting getting high enough up on the Overwatch ladder to maybe stream and talk about my thoughts on improving and how I can improve because I want to not be trash anymore. That's really just that's the goal. I'll if I'm streaming, it'll be on the LegacyGamesCast Twitch. And if everybody listening to the audio portion, everybody watching on YouTube, maybe you stop by right now for Twitch. Thanks. We appreciate that. That's really cool that you did that. We would encourage you to keep doing that. We're just people that all share a passion, and that passion is video games. And there's nothing more awesome than being really passionate about things that you like. I think that's really where we started. So if you got feedback for us, as long as it's constructive, we will take the good and the bad. And please, I won't be as cliche to say to like and subscribe, but I would appreciate it if you would just continue stopping next week. Stop in next time. We do this pretty consistently at the same time. You can follow us on Twitter, like Frank said, and we'll let you know when we're doing stuff. And stop by. Maybe we can contribute in the future. We can work together. We can talk to you. We'd love to hear from you. LegacyGamesCast@gmail.com. That sort of stuff too. That said, thanks for listening to me rant and associated rants. I love talking about this stuff with you guys. Thanks, Andreas, for getting up early. Thanks, Rachel, for coming in, even though you had to fight that uphill battle. Technology can do that sometimes.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Didn't have to
no
get
worries.
up this time.
Right, just
Yeah,
blame that
stayed up
neutrality.
time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
there you
net
go.
neutrality. Yeah. That said, guys, we'll catch you next week, and I'd love to see all you then.
Right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.